Jake Morrison stepped out of the shower cubicle, with steam still rising from his skin. Water dripped from his brown hair onto the metal floor of the small bathroom. He reached for his towel, but stopped when he heard a strange sound from the main room. It was a high-pitched whining noise, like air being let out of a balloon very slowly. Jake had never heard his roommate make that sound before. Zixthara usually moved around their shared space without making much noise at all. Jake walked toward the sound, completely naked and still dripping wet. He pushed the bathroom door open and stepped into the main living area of their dormitory pod. The space was small, with 2 beds, 2 desks, and a window that showed the stars outside the Galactic University station. Zixthara stood frozen in the middle of the room. The alien's tall, thin body was perfectly still. Their crystalline skin, which normally glowed with soft blue light, was now flashing bright red patterns that Jake had never seen before. Zixthara's large black eyes were wide open, staring directly at Jake. The whining sound was coming from Zixthara. Jake blinked and looked down at himself. He was still completely naked. He looked back at his roommate, who had not moved at all. "Oh," Jake said, "sorry about that." He turned to go back to the bathroom, but the whining sound got louder, much louder. It was now more like a siren than a balloon. Jake turned back around. Zixthara's skin was flashing red and orange now, the colors moving across their body like waves. The alien's mouth was open, and the loud whining sound was coming from there. Their eyes were still locked on Jake. "Are you okay?" Jake asked. He had to speak loudly because of the noise. Other sounds started coming from outside their room. Jake could hear doors opening and closing in the hallway. Voices were talking in languages he did not understand. Some of the voices sounded worried. Jake grabbed a towel from the bathroom and wrapped it around his waist. The whining sound got a little quieter, but it did not stop. Zixthara's skin was still flashing red and orange. "Zix, what's wrong?" Jake asked. He took a step toward his roommate. Zixthara moved for the first time since Jake had entered the room. The alien took 3 quick steps backward, hitting the wall behind him. The whining sound got louder again. Someone knocked on their door, then someone else knocked. The knocking got louder and more urgent. Jake looked at the door, then back at Zixthara. His roommate was now pressed against the wall, their skin flashing even brighter. The alien's long fingers were pressed against their chest, and they were breathing very fast. "I don't understand," Jake said. "I was just taking a shower. I thought you were in class." The knocking on the door became pounding. Jake could hear more voices in the hallway now. They sounded angry or scared. Maybe both Jake had been living with Zixthara for 3 months. They had gotten along well, considering they were from different planets. Zixthara was quiet and polite. They studied most of the time and kept their side of the room very clean. Jake had thought they were becoming friends, but he had never seen his roommate act like this before. "Should I answer the door?" Jake asked. Zixthara made a different sound now. It was like a clicking noise mixed with the whining. The alien pointed at Jake with one long finger, then pointed at the door, then shook their head very fast. Jake understood. That meant no. The pounding on the door got even louder. Jake could hear what sounded like a lot of people in the hallway now. Someone was speaking in the clicking language that Zixthara's people used. Other voices were answering in different alien languages. Jake sat down on his bed, still wearing only the towel. He looked at his roommate, who was still pressed against the wall. The red and orange lights were still moving across Zixthara's skin, but they were getting dimmer. "Can you tell me what's happening?" Jake asked quietly. Zixthara's big black eyes looked at Jake for a long moment. Then the aliens spoke in their careful English. "You showed me your skin," Zixthara said. "There?" Voice was shaking. Yeah, Jake said. I was naked. Sorry about that. I thought you were still in your advanced physics class. You showed me your skin, Zixthara said again. All of your skin. Jake nodded. Right, that's what naked means. Zixthara made the clicking sound again. On my world, this means something very different. What does it mean? Jake asked. Before Zixthara could answer, someone outside the door started speaking in a loud, deep voice. Jake did not understand the words, but the tone sounded official and serious. Zixthara's skin went completely white. All the flashing colors disappeared. The alien looked at Jake with what might have been fear in their large eyes. It means, Zixthara said slowly, that you have asked me to marry you, or that you want to fight me to the death. Jake stared at his roommate. What? Those are the only two reasons my people show their skin to someone who is not family, Zixthara explained. It is our most sacred custom. And now everyone in this part of the station knows what happened because they heard my distress call. Jake looked at the door where the pounding had turned into a steady banging. He looked back at Zixthara, who was still pressed against the wall. So what happens now? Jake asked. Zixthara's skin started flashing red again, but dimmer than before. Now, Zixthara said, we are both in very big trouble. Jake sat in a large room with white walls and bright lights. The room had a long table with many chairs around it. He was wearing his best clothes now, but he still felt very uncomfortable. Across from him sat 5 aliens from different worlds. They all looked serious. In the middle sat Dr. Vexnari, a tall alien with purple skin and 4 arms. Dr. Vexnari was the head of the Interspecies Relations Council at the University. Next to Jake sat Lisa Chun, his best friend from Earth. She had brown hair tied back in a ponytail and wore glasses. Lisa studied how different alien cultures worked, which Jake thought might help him now. Zixthara sat at the far end of the table. The alien's skin was still pale, not glowing like it usually did. Zixthara had not looked at Jake since they were brought to this room an hour ago. Jake Morrison, Dr. Vexnari said in a deep voice. Do you understand why you are here? I think so, Jake said. I accidentally broke some kind of rule when I came out of the shower naked. One of the other council members, an alien that looked like a giant insect, made a buzzing sound. This is not a small rule, the insect alien said. This is sacred law for the Kethmori people. Dr. Vexnari nodded. The Kethmori have very strict customs about showing skin to others. When you appeared naked before Zixthara, you performed what their culture calls the flesh-bearing ritual. I just forgot my towel, Jake said. That does not matter, said another council member. This alien had green scales and yellow eyes. Intent is not important in Kethmori law. Only actions matter. Lisa leaned forward. What exactly does this ritual mean? She asked Dr. Vexnaris. 4 arms moved as he spoke. In Kethmori culture, showing your naked body to someone who is not your mate means one of 2 things. Either you are challenging them to a death battle, or you are asking them to become your life partner. Jake felt his stomach drop. Life partner? Like marriage? More than marriage, the insect alien buzzed. In Kethmori culture, life partners share everything. They cannot be separated until one dies. They must live together, work together, and make all decisions together. Jake looked at Zixthara, who was staring at the table. And the other option is fighting to the death. Yes, Dr. Vexnari said. If Zixthara believes you are challenging them, you must fight with traditional Kethmori weapons until one of you dies. This is crazy, Jake said. I just came out of the shower. The green-scaled alien hissed. Are you saying Kethmori culture is crazy? No, Jake said quickly. I'm saying this is a misunderstanding. There are no misunderstandings in sacred law, the insect alien said. Lisa spoke up again. What does Zixthara want to do? Everyone looked at Jake's roommate. Zixthara's skin flickered with dim blue light for a moment, and went pale again. I do not want to fight Jake, Zixthara said quietly. He is not a warrior. I would kill him. Easily, and that would bring me no honor. So you choose the life partner option? Dr. Vexnari asked. Zixthara was quiet for a long time. I cannot choose that either, they finally said. Why not? The green-scaled alien asked. Because I have received a message from my family on the homeworld, Zixthara said. They have heard about what happened. They say that if I do not kill the human who insulted our ways, I will be cut off from our people forever. Jake felt cold. Your family wants you to kill me? They want me to restore our family's honor, Zixthara said. They say that letting a human break our sacred law without punishment will make our entire species look weak. The insect alien buzzed loudly. The Kethmori homeworld has sent an official message to this university. They want Jake Morrison turned over to their justice system within 7 standard days. What happens if they get me? Jake asked. Dr. Vexnari's 4 arms moved nervously. Kethmori justice for breaking sacred law is public execution. Lisa grabbed Jake's arm. They can't just hand him over to another species for execution, she said. Jake is a human citizen. The Kethmori are very important to the Galactic Federation, the green-scaled alien said. They control major trade routes and provide advanced technology to many worlds. If they threaten to cut off relations with the university, you'll give them what they want, Jake finished. We are trying to find another solution, Dr. Vexnari said. But Kethmori law is very clear. Jake must either fight Zixthara to the death, become life partners with Zixthara, or face execution on the Kethmori homeworld. Jake looked around the room. Everyone was staring at him, waiting for him to choose how he wanted to die. What if I refuse all 3 options? Jake asked. The council members looked at each other. That is not possible, the insect alien said. You must choose one. Says who? Jake asked, standing up. Says Kethmori's sacred law, Dr. Vexnari said. But I'm not Kethmori, Jake said. I'm human. Why should their laws apply to me? The room went very quiet. Lisa was staring at Jake with wide eyes. Zixthara looked up from the table for the first time. You cannot simply ignore another species' laws, the green-scaled alien said. Why not? Jake asked. If I was on Earth and a Kethmori accidentally broke one of our customs, would we force them to follow human punishment? That is different, Dr. Vexnari said. How is it different? Jake asked. The council members looked at each other again. None of them answered. Jake sat back down. I need time to think about this. You have 7 days, the insect alien buzzed. Then the Kethmori will come for you. As they left the meeting room, Lisa walked beside Jake. That was either really brave or really stupid, she said. Probably both, Jake said. He looked back at Zixthara, who was walking slowly behind them. What do you think will happen now? I don't know, Lisa said. But I think you just started something bigger than a fight between you and your roommate. Jake had a feeling she was right. Word about the meeting was already spreading through the university. Other students were staring at him as he walked through the halls. Some looked curious. Others looked scared. Jake Morrison, the exchange student from Earth, had just refused to follow alien law. Now everyone wanted to see what would happen next. Jake stood in front of the biggest room he had ever seen on the space station. Through the glass doors, he could see hundreds of aliens sitting in rows of seats. Students, teachers, and important people from many different worlds had come to watch what everyone was calling the human challenge. Lisa stood next to him, holding a datapad with all the research they had done over the past 3 days. "Are you sure you want to do this?" she asked. "No," Jake said, "but I'm going to do it anyway." Behind them, Dr. Alan Burke paced back and forth. Dr. Burke was the human representative to the university, and he looked very worried. "Jake, this could cause serious problems between Earth and the rest of the galaxy," he said. "Maybe you should just accept one of the three options." "Which one?" Jake asked. "Death by combat, forced marriage, or execution?" Dr. Burke stopped pacing. "When you put it that way, ... I'm not backing down," Jake said. "This whole thing is wrong." The doors opened, and Dr. Vic Snurry came out. His purple skin looked darker than usual. "Jake Morrison," he said with his forearms crossed. "The High Council of the Kethmori homeworld has arrived. They are not happy that you requested this debate." "I bet they're not," Jake said. Dr. Vexnari leaned closer. "These are not university teachers, Jake. These are the most powerful leaders of the Kethmori people. If you make them angry... They'll what?" Jake asked. "Execute me? They already want to do that." Inside the Great Hall, Jake walked to a small platform in the center of the room. Around him, hundreds of beings from dozens of different worlds watched in silence. He had never seen so many different types of aliens in one place. On one side of the room sat 5 Kethmori in dark robes. Their crystalline skin was completely black, which Lisa had told him meant they were very angry. These were the High Council members who had come from the Kethmori homeworld. Jake found Zixthara in the crowd. His roommate was sitting with other Kethmori students. Zixthara's skin was pale gray, and they looked scared. The tallest of the High Council members stood up. When they spoke, their voice was deep and cold. "Human Jake Morrison," they said, "you have broken our most sacred law. You have insulted our people and our culture. Why should we not take you back to our world for proper punishment?" Jake took a deep breath. "Because your law shouldn't apply to me." The crowd made noises. Some aliens gasped. Others made sounds that might have been angry or surprised. "All beings who interact with Kethmori must follow Kethmori law." The High Council member said, "This has been true for 1,000 years." "Says who?" Jake asked. The High Council member's skin flashed dark red. "Says our sacred traditions." "But I'm not Kethmori," Jake said. "I'm human. I have my own traditions." Another High Council member stood up. "Your traditions do not matter. You are on a station with Kethmori citizens. You must follow our ways." Jake looked around the room. "Is that how it works for everyone?" He asked loudly. "Do we all have to follow every law from every species we meet?" He pointed to a group of insect-like aliens. "The Vextai think it's wrong to eat plants. Should everyone on this station stop eating vegetables?" He pointed to another group. "The Regellians believe you should never touch someone without asking permission first. Should we arrest everyone who accidentally bumps into a Regellian in the hallway?" The crowd was getting louder. Aliens were talking to each other in many different languages. The Centaurians think it's sacred to howl at their home star every morning, Jake continued. "Should we wake up the whole station with howling every day?" "This is different," the first High Council member said. "How?" Jake asked. "How is it different?" "Because showing your naked body is a serious crime in our culture." "But it's not a crime in my culture," Jake said. "Humans take showers. We change clothes. We go swimming. We don't think naked bodies are scary or dangerous." Lisa had done research on this. Jake pulled out his data pad and read from it. "On Earth, many cultures see the human body as natural and normal. We have beaches where people swim in very little clothing. We have art with naked people in museums. We have doctors who see naked bodies every day to help sick people." The High Council member's skin was getting darker. "That is wrong and disgusting. To you," Jake said, "but not to us." And that's the point. Jake walked closer to the High Council. You're asking me to be punished by your laws for following my laws. That's not fair. Life is not fair, another High Council member said. Maybe not, Jake said, but it should be. He turned to face the whole crowd. How many of you have ever had problems with other species' customs? He asked Dot at first. No one moved. Then, slowly, a Regellian student stood up. I have been hiding who I am for 2 years, the Regellian said. My people have strict rules about gender, but I don't feel like the gender they assigned to me. If I tell them, they will cast me out forever. Another alien stood up. My people arranged a marriage for me with someone I have never met. I came to this university to study science, but they want me to go home and have children instead. More aliens started standing up. A tall, blue-skinned alien said, My family expects me to become a priest, but I want to be an engineer. An alien that looked like a walking tree said, My people think it is wrong to live away from our forest homeworld. They say I am betraying our nature by studying here. Soon, dozens of aliens were standing and sharing their stories. Jake listened to problems with arranged marriages, forced careers, religious rules they didn't believe in, and family expectations. They couldn't meet. The High Council looked around the room with growing alarm. Their dark skin was flickering with confused patterns. You see? Jake said, Everyone here has had to deal with customs and laws that don't fit who they are. The difference is, most of you chose to follow them anyway. I'm choosing not to. The first High Council member stepped forward. You cannot simply decide which laws to follow. Why not? Jake asked. If the laws are wrong, why shouldn't I fight them? Because that is not how society works. Maybe that's the problem, Jake said. The room was completely quiet now. Jake looked at Sixthara. My roommate doesn't want to kill me. I don't want to marry them. And I don't want to be executed for taking a shower. So I'm not going to accept any of those choices. He turned back to the High Council. If you want to punish someone, punish me for refusing to follow bad laws. Don't punish me for being human. The High Council members looked at each other. Their skin was flashing with patterns Jake had never seen before. This is not over, the first one said. I know, Jake said, but it's a start. Jake woke up to the sound of his communication device beeping. He rolled over in his bed and saw dozens of message alerts on the screen. Messages were coming from all over the galaxy. Jake Morrison, hero of individual freedom. Read one message. From a Centaurian student on a space station near Alpha Centauri. Human challenges ancient laws, galaxy watches. Said another from a news reporter on the Regellian homeworld. Death to the lawbreaker. Said a third message, this one from someone. On the Kethmori homeworld. Jake sat up and rubbed his eyes. It had been 2 days since his debate with the High Council, and the story had spread to every corner of the galaxy. News networks were calling it different things. The naked human crisis, the great cultural challenge, and the beginning of the end of traditional law. Lisa knocked on his door and came in without waiting for an answer. She was carrying her datapad and looked excited. Jake, you need to see this, she said. She sat on his bed and showed him the screen. Look at these numbers, she said. Over 3 million beings across the galaxy have watched recordings of your debate. Student groups on 47 different worlds have started their own protests against cultural laws they don't like. Jake looked at the screen. There were pictures of aliens holding signs that said things like, question everything and freedom to choose in dozens of different languages. This is getting big, Lisa said. Maybe. Too big, Jake said. He showed her some of the angry messages he had received. Half the galaxy thinks I'm a hero. The other half thinks I should be executed. Through their small window, Jake could see news ships arriving at the space station. Large vessels from different worlds were docking every few hours, bringing reporters. And government officials. "Dr. Burke wants to see you," Lisa said. "He's in the communications center with someone from Earth's government." Jake got dressed and walked through the station's hallways. Everywhere he went, aliens stopped to stare at him. Some waved and smiled. Others turned away or made angry sounds. The communications center was full of people Jake had never seen before. Dr. Burke was talking to a serious-looking woman in a dark blue uniform. When Jake entered, everyone stopped talking and looked at him. "Jake," Dr. Burke said, "this is Captain Rachel Stone from Earth's Diplomatic Corps. She came here as soon as she heard about your situation." Captain Stone was tall with short gray hair and sharp green eyes. She looked like someone who was used to being in charge. "Mr. Morrison," she said in a crisp voice, "do you understand what you've done?" "I challenged a law I thought was wrong," Jake said. "You've created a diplomatic crisis," Captain Stone said. "The Kethmori government has threatened to cut off trade with 17 human colonies. They're also talking about leaving the Galactic Federation entirely." Jake felt his stomach sink. "I didn't mean to cause problems for other humans." "But you have," Captain Stone said. "Earth's government is under pressure to hand you over to the Kethmori for punishment." Dr. Burke stepped forward. "Captain Stone, Jake is just a student. He made a mistake." "No," Jake said. "I didn't make a mistake. I made a choice." Captain Stone raised an eyebrow. "A choice that could hurt millions of humans throughout the galaxy. A choice that could help millions of beings throughout the galaxy," Jake said. "Did you see the protests? Do you know how many people are finally standing up to unfair laws because of what happened here?" Lisa showed Captain Stone her datapad. "Look at these reports," she said. "A group of Vextai students have stopped following their people's rule about never eating plants. Some Rigelians are finally telling their families about their real gender identities. Even some Kethmori on their homeworld are questioning their traditions." Captain Stone looked at the screen, then back at Jake. "And you think that's worth risking human-alien relations?" "I think it's worth risking everything," Jake said. Before Captain Stone could answer, Dr. Vexnari rushed into the room. His purple skin was pale, and all 4 of his arms were shaking. "We have a problem," he said. "A big problem." "What now?" Dr. Burke asked. "The Kethmori High Council has made an official demand," Dr. Vexnari said. "They want Jake Morrison handed over to them within 24 hours, or they will consider it an act of war against their people." Captain Stone closed her eyes for a moment. "War? It gets worse," Dr. Vexnari said. "Other species are taking sides. The Centaurians are supporting Jake. They've sent ships to protect the station. The Vextai are also sending support." "And who's supporting the Kethmori?" Captain Stone asked. "The Rigelian Empire, the Altarian Republic, and the Andromedan Alliance," Dr. Vexnari said. "They all have traditional cultures with strict laws. They're afraid that if Jake succeeds, their own people will start rebelling." Lisa looked at her datapad. "That's not all," she said. "According to the news reports, there are already riots on 3 different worlds. Some aliens are trying to break free from their traditional laws, and their governments are fighting back." Jake sat down heavily in a chair. "This is all my fault." "No," said a new voice from the doorway. Everyone turned to see Zixthara standing there. Jake's roommate had never looked so determined. "This is not your fault, Jake," Zixthara said. "This is the fault of laws that never made sense." Zixthara walked into the room. Their crystalline skin was glowing with bright blue light. "I have been doing research," Zixthara said. "The law about showing skin is not as old as the High Council." "Claims? What do you mean?" Jake asked. "I found records in the university library," Zixthara said. "The law was created only 300 years ago by a dictator named Kethvam. He wanted to control our people by making them ashamed of their bodies. Captain Stone leaned forward. Are you sure about this? Very sure, Zixtara said. Before Kethum, my people were known throughout the galaxy for our freedom and openness. We shared knowledge with everyone. We welcomed other cultures. We were explorers and scientists. Zixtara's skin flashed brighter. Kethum changed all that. He said that other cultures were dangerous. He created laws to keep us separate and afraid. The skin-showing law was just one of many. Dr. Vexnari was staring at Zixtara. If this is true, it means the High Council has been lying to everyone for centuries, Zixtara said, including their own people. Jake stood up. Can you prove? This? I already have, Zixtara said. I sent copies of the historical records to news networks throughout the galaxy. The truth about Keth Mori history will be broadcast in 1 hour. Captain Stone looked shocked. You've just declared war on your own government. No, Zixtara said. I've just told the truth about my own people. Jake looked at his roommate with new respect. Zix, you could be executed for this. So could you, Zixtara said. But some things are more important than being safe. Through the window, Jake could see more ships arriving at the station. Some looked like warships. What happens now? Jake asked. Captain Stone was quiet for a long moment. Then she smiled for the first time since Jake had met her. Now, she said, we find out what happens when the entire galaxy has to choose between tradition and truth. Jake watched the news reports on the big screen in the station's main gathering area. Hundreds of students and teachers from many different worlds crowded around to see what was happening across the galaxy. The reports were incredible. On the Keth Mori homeworld, massive crowds were marching through the capital city. They carried signs that said, "Truth before tradition and freedom for all Keth Mori." The protesters were demanding that the High Council step down. This is amazing, Lisa said, standing next to Jake. Look at how many people are marching. On the screen, Jake could see thousands of Keth Mori filling the streets. Their skin was glowing with bright colors that Lisa had told him meant joy and hope. Many of them were young, but Jake also saw older Keth Mori joining the protests. The historical records that Zixtara found have changed everything, Dr. Burke said. He was holding a data pad with more news reports. People are learning that many of the laws they thought were ancient traditions were actually created by dictators to control them. Another news report showed similar protests on other worlds. Rigelians were demanding the right to choose their own gender identities. Vextai were eating plants for the first time in centuries. Centaurans were refusing to follow career paths chosen by their families. It's not just the Keth Mori, Jake said. People everywhere are questioning their old laws. Dr. Vexnari approached, them with a worried expression. Jake, Captain Stone wants to see you immediately, he said. Something important has happened. Jake followed Dr. Vexnari to the communications center. Captain Stone was there with several other humans Jake didn't recognize. They all wore official-looking uniforms. Jake, Captain Stone said, I just received a message from Earth. The President wants to speak with you personally. A large screen showed the face of an older woman with kind eyes and gray hair. Jake recognized her as President Williams, the leader of Earth's government. Mr. Morrison, President Williams said, you've certainly caused quite a stir. I'm sorry if I've caused problems for Earth, Jake said. President Williams smiled. Don't apologize. What you've done is remarkable. In 1 week, you've started the biggest civil rights movement in galactic history. Jake blinked. Civil rights movement? That's what we're calling it, President Williams said. The fight for individual freedom across all species. Earth's government has decided to officially support your position. Captain Stone looked surprised. Ma'am, What about the diplomatic consequences? Captain Stone, President Williams said, sometimes doing the right thing is more important than keeping the peace. Jake Morrison has reminded the galaxy of something we should never forget, that every being has the right to choose their own path in life. The screen changed to show more news reports. This time, Jake saw something that made his heart race. The Kethmori High Council was walking out of their government building, surrounded by angry crowds. The High Council has agreed to step down, President Williams said. The protests on their homeworld became so large that they couldn't ignore them anymore. A new government is being formed, led by young Kethmori who want to return to their people's original values of freedom and exploration. Jake felt dizzy. They're stepping down? Because of what I did? Because of what you started, President Williams corrected. But the real credit goes to people like your roommate, Zixthara, who had the courage to find and share the truth. Speaking of Zixthara, Jake realized he hadn't seen his roommate since yesterday. Where is Zix? Dr. Vexnari smiled. Zixthara is being interviewed by news networks across the galaxy. They've become the voice of the new Kethmori movement. Many people are calling them a hero. The next few hours were a blur of interviews, meetings, and more news reports. Jake spoke to reporters from dozens of different worlds. Everyone wanted to know how a simple shower mistake had turned into a galaxy-wide revolution. Later that evening, Jake finally returned to his dormitory room. He was exhausted and overwhelmed by everything that had happened. When he opened the door, he found Zixthara sitting at their desk, reading something on their datapad. Hey, Jake said, I heard you've been busy. Zixthara looked up and smiled. Their skin was glowing with warm, golden light that Jake had never seen before. Hello, Jake. Yes, it has been a very interesting day. I saw the news about your homeworld. Jake said, the High Council stepping down, the new government. Are you okay with all this? Zixthara stood up and walked to the window. Outside, they could see ships from many different worlds still docked at the station. My family sent me a message today, they said. Jake felt worried. What did they say? They said they are proud of me, Zixthara said, turning back to Jake with bright eyes. They said I have brought honor to our family by telling the truth about our history. That's wonderful, Jake said, sitting on his bed. I was worried they might be angry. Some Kethmori are angry, Zixthara said. The old families who supported the High Council. But most of our people are happy to learn the truth about who we really are. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, both thinking about how much had changed in just 1 week. Jake, Zixthara said finally, I want to thank you. Thank me? For what? For showing me that it's okay to question things, Zixthara said. I spent my whole life following rules without understanding why they existed. You taught me that some rules should be broken. Jake laughed. I just forgot my towel. No, Zixthara said seriously. You did much more than that. When the High Council told you to choose between death, marriage, or execution, you chose something else. You chose to fight for what was right. We both did, Jake said. You're the one who found the historical records. You're the one who proved the laws were fake. We make a good team, Zixthara said. The next morning, Jake woke up to another message on his communication device. This one was from Dr. Vexnari, asking him to come to the main conference room. When Jake arrived, he found a room full of important-looking aliens from many different worlds. Captain Stone was there, along with Dr. Burke and President Williams. On the communication screen, Jake, Dr. Vexnari said, the Galactic Federation has made a decision about your situation. Jake felt nervous. What kind of decision? An alien Jake didn't recognize stood up. They had silver skin and multiple eyes. Jake Morrison, they said in a formal voice. The Federation Council has voted to create a new position in our government. We want to offer you the job of Cultural Freedom Ambassador. Cultural Freedom Ambassador? Jake asked. Your job would be to help solve conflicts between different species cultures, the silver-skinned alien explained. When beings from different worlds have problems understanding each other, you would help them find solutions that respect everyone's rights. President Williams smiled from the screen. It's a great honor, Jake. You would be the first human to hold this position. Jake looked around the room. What about my studies? You can continue your education, Dr. Vexnari said. But you would also travel throughout the galaxy, helping to prevent the kind of cultural conflicts that almost led to war last week. And Zixthara has been offered a similar position, the silver-skinned alien added. Cultural Truth Researcher. They would help investigate the real history behind different species' laws and traditions. Jake felt excited and scared at the same time. This is a big responsibility. Yes, it is, President Williams said. But we believe you can handle it. You've already proven that one person can make a difference in the galaxy. That afternoon, Jake and Zixthara walked through the station's observation deck, looking out at the stars. Many of the news ships had left, but some were still there, reporting on what people were calling the week that changed the galaxy. So, Jake said, Cultural Freedom Ambassador and Cultural Truth Researcher, think we can do it? I think we have to try, Zixthara said. There are probably millions of beings throughout the galaxy who are trapped by unfair laws and traditions. If we can help even some of them, ... It's worth it, Jake finished. They watched as a transport ship arrived at the station. Through the windows, Jake could see a group of young aliens from different worlds. They were probably new exchange students, coming to study at the university just like Jake had 6 months ago. I wonder what they'll learn here, Jake said. I hope they learn the same thing we did, Zixthara said. What's that? Zixthara's skin glowed with bright, happy colors. That it's okay to question everything. That traditions should help people, not hurt them. And that sometimes the most important thing you can do is refuse to accept a bad situation. Jake smiled. Even if it means getting caught naked by your alien roommate? Especially then, Zixthara said, and for the first time since Jake had known them, his alien friend laughed. As they stood there watching the new students arrive, Jake thought about how much his life had changed. A week ago, he was just a confused exchange student who had made an embarrassing mistake. Now he was about to become a galactic ambassador, working to protect the rights of beings throughout the galaxy. It all started with a simple shower and a misunderstanding about nudity. But it had become something much bigger. Proof that one person, standing up for what they believe is right, can change the entire galaxy. The shocking aftermath wasn't just that Jake had survived his cultural crisis. The shocking aftermath was that his accidental rebellion had inspired millions of beings to fight for their own freedom. And it all began because a human refused to accept that things had to be done a certain way just because they had always been done that way. Jake Morrison, the naked human who accidentally started a revolution, was ready for his next adventure.